Welcome back, sleepyheads. Tonight, we're heading to a quiet stretch of coastline, far from anywhere busy, where an old lighthouse keeper is closing up for the evening. There's no rush tonight. No deadlines. Just the slow turning of a lighthouse lamp and the sound of the sea below. If you're ready, get comfortable. Settle into your pillow. Let your shoulders drop heavy into the mattress. And when you're ready, we'll begin. Let's take a moment before the story begins. Breathe in, slowly, for 4 counts. And out, even slower, for 6. One more time. In, 2, 3, 4. And out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Let your eyes rest, even if they're already closed. Let your jaw soften. Unclench it, just slightly. Let your hands, wherever they are, grow heavy now. Heavier than they were a moment ago. There's nowhere else you need to be tonight. Nothing else you need to do. Just this voice, and the sound of the sea, and the slow drift toward sleep. There's a lighthouse on the edge of a small, forgotten cove, where the cliffs lean gently toward the water and the gulls have long since gone quiet for the night. Its keeper, an older man named Edrin, with silver in his beard and a slow, steady way of moving, has lived here for as long as anyone in the nearby village can remember. Tonight, like most nights, Edrin climbs the spiral stairs of the lighthouse just as the sun begins to dip below the horizon. The steps are worn smooth from decades of footsteps, his and the keeper's before him. Each one curves gently upward, lit only by the soft amber glow of a small lamp he carries in one hand. He doesn't rush. He never rushes. Halfway up, he pauses at a small round window built into the stone wall. Through it, the sky has turned the color of warm honey, fading slowly into a deep blue at its edges. The sea below catches the last of the light, scattering it in soft, broken pieces across the water. He watches for a moment, the way he always does. Then he continues climbing. At the top, the great lamp sits behind its glass, waiting patiently for dusk. Edrin sets down his small lamp and checks the oil first, a habit so old it no longer requires thought. Enough for the night. Plenty, in fact. He polishes a small smudge from the glass with the sleeve of his old wool sweater, slowly, in wide, unhurried circles. Outside, the sea moves in long, slow breaths against the rocks below, in and out, and in again. The wind is gentle tonight. Barely a whisper against the lighthouse stones. He lights the lamp. It catches slowly, then steadily, casting a warm gold light that sweeps out across the darkening water in a slow, even rhythm. Edrin watches it turn once. Twice. Just to be sure. Satisfied, he gives a small nod, to no one in particular, just an old habit, and makes his way back down the spiral stairs to his small stone cottage at the base of the lighthouse, where a kettle is already beginning to hum on the stove. The cottage is small, but it has always felt like enough. A single room, really, with a low ceiling crossed by old wooden beams, a stone fireplace along one wall, and a window that looks out toward the water. A worn armchair sits near the fire, its cushion shaped, after so many years, almost perfectly to Edrin's frame. He moves to the stove and lifts the kettle just as it begins to whistle, soft and low. From a small wooden shelf, he takes down a chipped blue teacup, his favorite, though he couldn't say why, and a tin of tea leaves that smell faintly of dried orange peel and something earthy underneath. He spoons the leaves slowly into the cup, pours the water, watching the steam rise and curl upward in the dim light. Then he carries it to the armchair by the fire, careful not to spill, and lowers himself into the familiar shape of the cushion with a quiet, contented sigh. The fire crackles gently, throwing soft orange light across the stone walls. Outside, through the window, he can just make out the lighthouse beams sweeping past at intervals, there and gone, and there again, a slow heartbeat against the darkening sky. Edrin takes a slow sip of his tea. It's hot, just at the edge of too hot, and it warms him from the inside in a way that feels, on a night like this, like the only thing that matters. He doesn't read tonight. He doesn't need to. He simply sits and listens to the fire, to the sea, to the occasional creak of the old cottage settling into itself, the way it has every night for as long as he's lived here. His mind wanders, slow and unhurried, to nothing in particular. The smell of tea, the warmth of the fire, the familiar rhythm of the light outside. Turning, turning, turning. There is nowhere else to be, nothing else to do. After a while, though Edrin never quite knows how long, and has long since stopped caring, he sets down his empty cup and reaches for his coat. It's an old habit, this evening walk. Down to the shore, just before the deepest part of night settles in, when the tide is calm and the cove is quiet enough to hear his own footsteps on the sand. He steps outside. The air is cool, carrying the faint salt smell of the sea, mixed with something green and damp from the cliffs above. Above him, the lighthouse beam sweeps slowly past, briefly illuminating the path before him in pale gold, then fading back into soft darkness. The path down to the cove is one he could walk with his eyes closed, and some nights he nearly does. Worn smooth by years of slow, steady steps. Lined on either side by low grasses that sway gently in the night breeze. At the bottom, the sand is cool and slightly damp beneath his boots. The tide is far out tonight, leaving behind a wide stretch of smooth, dark sand that gleams faintly under the moonlight. Edrin walks slowly along the edge of the water, where the sand is firm and cool. The waves roll in, soft and unhurried, sliding up to meet his boots before retreating again, over and over, in a rhythm older than the lighthouse itself. He bends, every so often, to pick up a stone, smooth, rounded by years of water and tide. He turns each one over in his fingers, feeling its weight, its temperature, the way the moonlight catches its wet surface. Some he keeps, slipping them into his coat pocket. Most he sets gently back down, exactly where he found them. Above him, the stars have begun to emerge, one by one, scattered across a sky deepening from blue to black. The lighthouse beam continues its slow sweep behind him, a steady gold pulse against the night. Edrin finds a smooth, flat rock near the base of the cliff, the same one he always finds, somehow, without quite looking for it, and sits. He watches the water for a long while. The gentle roll of the waves. The way the moonlight breaks and scatters across each small ripple. Somewhere far off, very faint, a foghorn sounds, low and slow, and almost comforting in its familiarity. He isn't thinking of anything in particular. Just watching. Just listening. Just being here, in this quiet cove, at the edge of this quiet night. Eventually, with the same unhurried pace as everything else he does, Edrin rises from the rock and begins making his way back along the shore. As he nears the path back up to the cottage, he notices a small light bobbing gently near the old wooden dock, a lantern, swaying with the rhythm of a boat rocking softly against the water. It's Wren, the young fisherman from the village, tying off his boat for the night. He looks up as Edrin approaches, offering a small, tired smile. "Quiet one tonight," Wren says, his voice low and unhurried, matching the stillness around them. "They usually are," Edrin replies, settling onto an old wooden post near the dock. "Good catch." Wren shrugs, coiling a length of rope slowly between his hands. "Enough for tomorrow." Sea was calm. Didn't need to rush. They sit for a while in comfortable silence, the kind that doesn't need filling. The boat creaks gently against the dock. Somewhere above, the lighthouse beam continues its slow, steady sweep, briefly catching the edge of the water in pale gold before moving on. "Lamps burning well tonight," Wren says eventually, glancing up toward the tower. "Always does," Edrin says. "Just needs tending. Same as anything." Wren nods slowly, finishing his rope and setting it down beside the boat. "Tea before I head back." Edrin considers this for a moment, watching the gentle sway of the lantern light on the water. "Quick one," he says. "Getting late." They walk back up toward the cottage together, slow and unhurried, their footsteps falling into an easy, matching rhythm. Neither says much. There isn't much that needs saying. Back at the cottage, the fire has settled into a low, steady glow. Edrin adds another small log, watching the flames catch and rise gently around it. He pours a second cup of tea for Wren, who sits across from him in a smaller chair near the fire, warming his hands slowly around the cup. Outside, the wind has begun to pick up just slightly, carrying with it the faint, soft sound of rain beginning against the windows. Light at first, then steadier. A gentle, even patter against the glass. Should head back before it gets heavier, Wren says, though he makes no move to rise, watching the fire instead. Edrin agrees, equally unhurried. They sit a while longer, the rain growing steadily outside, the fire crackling low and warm inside. Eventually, Wren finishes his tea, rises slowly, and pulls his coat tighter around his shoulders. Good night, Edrin. Good night, Wren. Mind the path, it'll be slick. The door closes softly behind him. Edrin listens to his footsteps fade into the rain, then settles back into his armchair, alone again with the fire and the sea and the steady rhythm of the rain against the glass. He doesn't move for a long while. The fire continues to settle into embers, low and orange, throwing soft, shifting light across the stone walls. Outside, the lighthouse beam continues its slow sweep, visible now and then through the rain-streaked window, a warm gold pulse against the dark, wet night. His eyes grow heavy. The chair, the fire, the rain, all of it familiar, all of it safe, all of it exactly as it should be. The fire settles further into embers. The rain continues, gentle and steady against the glass. Edrin's eyes grow heavier still in his chair. The lighthouse lamp continues its slow turn above him, sweeping its warm light out over the water, again and again. Somewhere between one turn of the light and the next. The rain against the window. The warmth of the fire. If you're still here with me, thank you for spending this quiet evening with me. Sleep well, sleepy heads. I'll see you tomorrow night. Sweet dreams.